Nerd Bourbon Film and TV Addiction Hotline. Is everything okay?
Hi, thank you so much for answering. It's been such a long time since I've rewatched one of my favorite movies or TV shows, but today I relapsed.
Hello and welcome to Nerd Bourbon Relapse, the podcast series where we revisit the series that we love. Todd, it turns out The Dark Knight is still really good.
Yeah, it's a very good movie. I'm just
we're laughing because this is take 2 here.
Round 2, Electric Boogaloo. But yeah, it's still a very good movie. And like I said in take 1, I'm looking forward to actually talking about how I still think that Begins is better.
Yeah, I think in many ways I agree. However, this movie is still just dynamite.
Oh, no, still phenomenal.
And we need to get into that. But before we do that, spoiler warning for those. You know, the whole purpose of Relapse, of course, this is our movie and TV review podcast, rewatch podcast. We go back and we rewatch this stuff and talk about it in length. So just a little spoiler warning there. If for whatever reason you're listening to this and you stumbled into a dark alleyway and you don't know what you're doing and you haven't seen The Dark Knight. So anyway, let's get into it, man. I want to talk some Dark Knight. We just got done watching the movie mere moments ago. And it's funny as we're going through this series here, the Nolan Batman Dark Knight trilogy. I do stand by what I said in the last episode where we talked about Batman Begins, where I do feel like the narrative of Begins is stronger. But this movie is still so good.
Again, Heath Ledger's performance as the Joker.
This is the thing, like, it became, I think, a couple of years or so after the dust sort of settled on this movie, it kind of quickly became cool to hate on the performance, but
I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't even know people were shitting on it until you mentioned that to me when we started watching. I'm like, what? People are shitting on this?
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, it's impossible not to mention his performance in this movie when talking about this movie. It's such a seminal performance. A lot of people hold the idea that, like, oh, if you didn't die, we wouldn't we wouldn't consider this such a great performance. I disagree, man.
No, I definitely disagree.
I think it's just a great fucking performance, honestly. Like, and especially knowing everything that you could. The argument could be made that the Joker, him portraying the Joker, may have had a hand in his death, because
there's some people that have said that.
I think the argument could be made there. I mean, I don't want to add any fuel to a speculative fire or anything like that, but I mean, like, he dove in. I remember reading, like, he locked himself in a hotel room for like 6 weeks or something like that, just like really getting into the character, and the character, his take on the character is based on a lot of things. I think first and foremost, you got to remember putting yourself back in 2008 or 9 or whenever this movie came out. I think 8. Putting yourself back in the shoes there. Back then, Jack Nicholson was the Joker, right? Like, that was the gold standard of like a cinematic Joker. I think everybody going into it was like, well, how's this gay cowboy dude gonna live up to Jack Nicholson? You know what I mean?
I forgot about Brokeback Mountain.
Yeah. He just, how's Brokeback Mountain fucking gonna live up to Jack Nicholson? Jack Nicholson's performance as the Joker was so, like, it's kind of funny because you go back, and I do feel like we should watch the Tim Burton Batman movies at some point. But, like, going back, it comes off as a little goofy.
Oh yeah, it's cartoony, man.
Yeah.
Well, those movies in general were like cartoony.
Yeah, for better or for worse, and it's great and everything. I don't think we've had a bad on-screen Joker. But
people disagree with you. I mean, I don't. I agree with you.
I don't think so. I firmly believe every on-screen Joker has been cool in its own right, but it's just funny comparing those two, and even it was just completely different than anything that had happened before or since, really. Reading up, like, oh, he took inspiration from like Sid Vicious and like Tom Waits and kind of this like they're calling him kind of like grunge, like punk rock kind of Joker. And I mean, that's not inaccurate. He's also, there's an incredible, I don't know if you've ever seen it. Have you ever seen the Tom Waits interview that Heath Ledger based the voice off of?
No, actually.
There is a video, you can find it on YouTube. It's an interview that Tom Waits gave, and he's like chain smoking throughout the interview. And if you just look at his mannerisms and like the way he's speaking, his like vocal inflections, it is exactly, it sounds like Heath Ledger's Joker.
Wow, okay. Might have to check that out after we're done recording.
Yeah, and that's where he got the inspiration for the voice and everything. So it's cool to see all those little influences and just how involved he got. He was very, very passionate about this role. Like he totally invested himself in this character. I think that totally comes through in the performance. By the way, another little tidbit that I happen to know is the little the scenes, the kind of like home video scenes that he records.
Yeah.
The like hostage scenes and shit that he records.
Yeah.
And that was like Heath Ledger actually quote unquote directed those scenes in a way. Like it was just Heath Ledger with a handy cam, literally.
Shit.
It was not
I feel like I'd be fucking terrified if I was like the other actor. Like in those scenes. Like I'd just be like, oh shit.
It's scary. It's funny because when we got to that first one, we were just like sitting like, damn, I kind of forgot how like dark this movie gets.
No, it goes places.
It's like the moment when you realize that that's essentially a snuff film.
Yeah.
And they're really smart though, the way that they handle that stuff though, because like they never explicitly show him killing the people. There's always cutaways.
Yeah, they basically it's like at that one it's like where he kind of just drops the camera and you just hear the poor son of a bitch screaming.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course this is all like just towing that line of PG-13 and R.
Mm-hmm.
You know, back in the pre-Deadpool days.
Holy shit, dude. I would not want to see this movie R.
Yeah.
God damn.
See them really go in. Because the movie's already dark, man. The bastard in the prison cell who had like a bomb inside of him.
Oh, yeah.
Shit's pretty dark.
Like Christmas.
Yeah, like Christmas. Like, falls over. Just gotta imagine those chunks flying everywhere after the explosion.
Oh, it's all bad.
Anyway, we're all over the place. Heath Ledger's performance is great. It's not. I'm sorry, it's not cool to hate on it. Just
now, granted, everybody can have their opinion, but
yeah, well, you know,
it's a bad opinion.
It's an incorrect opinion. From the very beginning of this movie, man, like that first scene, this movie. Here's what I'll say about this movie. The reason that I think The Dark Knight is so fun is because this movie is a collection of great scenes.
Mm-hmm.
This movie is a collection of, rather than like focusing on a narrative that needs to string together so much, this movie is a collection of just really great, fun, well done scenes.
Yeah.
And as a result, I mean, the movie flies by. It's not that the movie doesn't have a narrative or doesn't have things to say, because it totally does. But it's almost like, in terms of the actual viewing experience, it's not, the story is not as front focused. It's just these really great fun scenes. It almost reminds me of a Tarantino movie in that way.
Okay.
Like, Tarantino movies are all about fun scenes with like terrific actors. And that's essentially what this movie is. It just moves, there's just a tangible flow from scene to scene. And like within the first 10 minutes of this movie, we get that amazing heist scene that opens the movie. That scene's so good. Like with that Hans Zimmer music.
And it's like it really is like the perfect introduction to his Joker.
Right.
Like right then and there. Granted, that first line he gives is a little...
Yeah, it's a little cringy. That whole, what doesn't kill you makes you stranger. That's a little, whatever.
Granted, that's the whole thing. He's a strange character. He's a freak, as others would call him, you know, but
then, like, you sort of get reacquainted with the world of Batman really quickly, and you get introduced to, like, Harvey Dent, who's going to be, like, another major player. That's another thing. I mentioned this when we first started watching the movie. I was like, I feel like Aaron Eckhart's performance in this movie is underrated, because so much of the conversation around this movie was about Heath Ledger. And I don't feel like it should be understated how good Aaron Eckhart is in this movie.
He actually kills it.
He's so good. He's it's funny to think about Harvey Dent in the Tim Burton movies. It's our old buddy Lando. Remember that?
What?
Oh yeah. It's fucking Billy D. Williams.
I don't remember that, dude.
Oh yeah.
Holy shit. All right then.
Oh, you had to look that up real quick?
Yeah, I did. I had to look that up.
No, yeah, it's straight up. It was Billy D. Williams as our old buddy Lando in Batman Returns. I'm telling you, we got to go back and we got to watch these movies. I feel like. Anyway, never got to see him become Two-Face, of course, but still cool. But no, Aaron Eckhart just crushes it in this movie, man. Totally underrated performance. Totally has that sort of like, that sort of goody two-shoes, square-jawed, and then he cranks up the intensity appropriately when he needs to.
Mm-hmm.
When he's lying there, say it!
I think we both got a chuckle at that scene.
Always makes me laugh. He does these. There's a few moments, especially after he does the whole Two-Face transformation, where he just totally flips. Like he has these like dramatic mood swings like that, and that's actually intentional.
Mm-hmm.
That was part of. I think Aaron Eckhart even said like when he was like doing research for the character, he studied like people that have mood swings and split personalities and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
But what's a real bummer is that like, and I think the argument could be made, and I know it was important for the story and stuff like that Harvey Dent, of course, dies at the end, but it was a real bummer that like we never got to see him as Two-Face again after this movie, because obviously the character dies. But then also because of Heath Ledger dying, we never got to see Joker again. And they actually did intend for him to come back in the third movie. So they completely had that plan. They were completely expecting Heath Ledger to come back as Joker in the third one.
So what was going to be the plan with that? Were they going to have like Bane and all that shit with Joker, or what? Or they had to like, completely change that up?
Well, the plan for the third movie was super fluid. There was all these, as they were in the planning, like I mentioned to you, the dude like Mr. Reese or whatever, Coleman Reese in this movie,
ended up being the Riddler or whatever. Yeah,
he was. They were toying with the idea of him being the Riddler. There were talks that like Philip Seymour Hoffman was gonna play Penguin in like the third one or whatever, and yeah, Joker was supposed to come back. The way that they keep kind of bringing Scarecrow back, Joker was kind of supposed to come back and stuff like that. But I think eventually it just sort of morphed into what it became. And they sort of decided to go a different direction with it. And of course, we're going to talk about that in the next episode when we watch Dark Knight Rises. But I don't know, man. It was funny because I remember speculating after we saw this movie, my friends and I would talk about like fan casting and shit. I was a huge Dexter fan at the time, and I always thought Michael C. Hall would have been a great Riddler.
Oh, I could see that, definitely.
Yeah, I was all about that. And I had this whole fan wet dream. I would have liked to see like this universe's take on Poison Ivy as like a bioterrorist kind of thing.
Yeah. I feel like I remember you talking about that years ago.
Yeah, I mean this is going back 12 years, but yeah,
years ago.
It just goes to show like this Nolan verse, as it were, really captures your imagination with this sort of like more realistic, I guess, take on the character of Batman and his whole world. But
I would have liked to see a realistic Penguin.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been interesting to see Penguin on screen again after Danny DeVito kind of took it in that direction.
Too far.
I like Danny DeVito's Penguin, but it was totally, again, it was off the comic book page,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is one interesting movie. But no, back to the Dark Knight though, man. It's just like I said, these great scenes. I think we should just talk about some of these scenes. The pencil scene.
Oh, as soon as like they're in like the little like kitchen, I'm just like, here it comes, let's go.
Just one of those scenes that just no pun intended, it sticks in your head. That scene. I remember that was the scene coming out of the theater and back when it came out. That was the scene everybody was talking about. Oh my god, the fucking pencil trick.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody was talking about that shit. That was so cool. And it was funny realizing as we were watching this, realizing how many like lines from this movie and bits of dialogue.
Oh, I still quote them to this day.
It's so quotable. It's so like in the pop culture lexicon. Like, I mean, fuck. Like, you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become.
Well,
the
here's
villain.
my thing. It's like this movie, like, was what like the Avengers movies have done for me, like with quotable dumb shit. You know?
Yeah. That's the secret of like a great, just like the just earworm of a line. Some men just want to watch the world burn. Yeah, I mean these are classic lines that this movie pioneered, and it's funny because you don't realize it in the moment. Like in the moment, you don't realize, oh man, this is something I'm going to be quoting for like the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
But looking back on it now, all these years later, it's like shit, man. Like I don't know how many times I've quoted this movie. This movie just became something that was just a piece of me and a piece of my brain.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many good scenes. The scene where I think we were both kind of quiet for this scene where he goes to get Lau back.
Oh, dude, the Hong Kong scene? I love it.
The Hong Kong scene.
Love it. Yeah, I
So
think
cool.
I was quiet like throughout that entire time because I was just like, let me just enjoy this.
Yes. It was just so well staged and well performed and like just a great like set piece scene. These movies, I always say, like, when we're watching these, I'm like, I gotta have some popcorn. These are the kind of movies I just feel like I have to have some popcorn.
Well, yeah, they're popcorn movies, man.
They're they're just so much fucking fun, man. Like, it's such a cinematic powerhouse experience. And I almost miss these movies actively being in theaters every few years because I feel like I don't really get, like, just a big... Like, these movies strike a really fine balance of being big blockbuster popcorn films, but not being dumb. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're still smart and they still have something to say, but at the same time, they're very, like, it's very cheesy and nacho, no nutritional value. But no, there is nutritional value. You know what I mean? I like that. I like that about this trilogy. And Nolan movies in general are sort of like that. But... Anyway, man, I just you can go on and on. Every scene in this movie is a fucking banger. The chase through the underneath the streets,
the danger zone,
and the danger zone there, and
the hellscape.
Joker shooting the fucking bazookas at the squad
I love
cars.
that. I was like, what is that?
He's got a bazooka. It was. I was telling you this. So my biological father is a police officer, not in Chicago, but near. And it was funny because back when they were shooting this, they used a lot of their squad cars and stuff like that, and a lot of the kind of bigger like units and stuff, and they painted them for the movie and used them in some of the scenes. And they actually had one of those on their lot. It was one of those SWAT cars, one of those big ones, with like the GCPD logo on it and shit like that, and had like bullet holes in it and shit like that. And there's somewhere a picture of me sitting inside of that. There, somewhere out in the ether exists a picture of me sitting in that thing. But so that was kind of cool. It was kind of cool. It's always fun to see that scene afterwards, being like, I sat in that car. I like to imagine it's the one that went into the lake there.
That's the one I joked with. What was that one?
I always like to imagine it was that one. But no, just, and of course that leads into the great, hit me, I want you to do it. And the truck flipping over, which was actually real. They straight up flipped that truck.
So good.
So good. What are some of your favorites?
Gotta love the interrogation scene.
Oh, yes.
The scene that has been memed to hell and back.
But it's such a great
Oh.
scene, man.
It is a great scene, but I love the dramatic bullshit of like him being in the fucking room the entire fucking time, just dark, just standing behind
Hey.
him. Well, it's like the scene from what is it? Shit, Rogue One with Vader. The man was standing there.
Oh, right. You just see the lightsaber come on, yeah.
It's like
It's dramatic effect, Todd.
it's so good.
That's what that is. Look, I mean, that's what Ra's al Ghul says, right? Theatricality and deception.
And yeah, I think you were even telling me about like how some of that shit, like he's getting his head slammed and shit. That shit was real.
Oh yeah, no, that was real because Heath Ledger was totally like Christian Bale's afraid to hurt him, and Heath Ledger was completely like, no, dude, you got to go in. Like this has to be believable. I don't care if you hurt me. Like go in. So yeah, when you see like him like slamming his head and shit like that, a lot of that is real.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually got like hurt on set actively. So yeah, Heath Ledger again was just so committed.
Method actors are like strange beings. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I respect it.
It's funny because I think it was just, I don't know if it was just the gravitas of the character. I don't know if it was just his sheer respect for the Joker as a legendary character or what it was. Because beforehand, Heath Ledger was not some huge name. And as a matter of fact, like the studio was not on board with Heath Ledger at all. But Chris Nolan was like, yo, this is my guy. And we're going with him or we're not doing it at all.
Mm-hmm.
And the studio was not on board at first. They were like, gay cowboy? Like, this is who we are.
That's what everybody was fucking saying. It's like, oh, what is this guy gonna do? Bullshit.
And it's just funny to see him do this, perform this role. And he just wasn't like, he did like The Patriot, but then he was like, he did like A Knight's Tale, which is like a goofy kind of movie.
I like that movie. I don't give a fuck.
No, I like it too. And then Brokeback Mountain was kind of his breakout role. And no, it's kind of sad when you imagine that dude, when he died, that dude was younger when he died than I am now. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And he could have totally, like, he could have had a long and storied career. And it's kind of sad when you look at him in this movie and you're like, fuck, like he had so much potential. He was such a legitimately great actor. Take The Knight's Tale out of it. He was a fucking amazing actor.
Are you trying to throw shade at that movie? No,
No, I'm just saying it's a totally different type of role, right? No, that movie's fun. I like that movie a lot, but it's just not. You just look at two sides of the coin, no pun intended there. But, I don't want this entire conversation to be about Heath Ledger. Of course, another, I feel like we need to talk about this a little bit. The swapping of Katie Holmes to Maggie Gyllenhaal.
Yes.
And, in some lights, she looks good.
In others, she looks like a bulldog. She looks like that. What's that fucking that cartoon character? The dog.
Who, Droopy Dog?
Yes.
Oh God, could you imagine that? You make your own luck, Harvey. You make your own luck.
Which looks like it.
Bruce, I don't know if we can be together.
Oh, lordy. But I think a lot of people tried to make the argument that Maggie Gyllenhaal was a better actress than Katie Holmes. But to me, I don't know. To me, I think they're probably on par. I don't.
They're on par.
Doesn't really bother me one way or another. I think she's fine. I like the character of Rachel. I think she serves an important part of the story and everything. But
it's good they kill her. No.
Yeah, but I don't necessarily. Yeah, it's just a little weird. A little weird. Of course, yeah, she dies in this one, so you don't really have to see her again anyway. But It's just a little. I think I remember reading that Katie Holmes. Maybe this is just like a rumor mill sort of thing, but I think I remember reading that Katie Holmes signed off of this. Like she says it was like voluntary, but I think it was actually like there's all this drama going on between her and Tom Cruise and shit like that, and I think she signed off of it for that reason. We ended up getting Maggie Gyllenhaal instead, which whatever. It's fine. It's fine. She dies anyway. Todd, who cares? Of course, the people who have always been great are still great. We still got Gary Oldman. Now Commissioner Gordon, finally. I like that they marinate on that. I like that he was not just Commissioner Gordon right away.
No, yeah, definitely.
I like that they kind of give him an arc.
Yeah, that spot got opened up during this movie.
Yes, it did. That spot certainly got opened up.
That must have been some strong poison.
The shit was like smoking on the table. It's like
Dude.
you put acid in it or something.
Yeah, dead ass. Like a sip, done, gone.
just a fucking sip and he dies. And then the judge, of course, gets blown to smithereens, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
All in that same scene. There's a lot of smart.
That scene. It's multiple scenes, like, strung together.
Yeah.
But, like, the music's just fucking going in during that scene.
The movie loves doing that. The movie loves, like, there's several instances of, like, oh, this is the Joker's plan, and we're going to string all these things, a lot of plates spinning at once, and yeah, the Hans Zimmer score just, like, going in and shit like that. That's, again, it's just fun. It's just fun, man. Just a fun fucking movie. The scene at the end, I think, is still really fun and interesting, like where he tries to do that social experiment.
Yeah, and we were joking about the main. I don't know the name of the actor, but like the main prisoner, essentially.
Yeah, Ving Rhames looking motherfuckers. Give it to me. Give it to me.
Don't know how to take a life.
Yeah. I'm gonna do what you should have did 10 minutes ago. I was like, is this getting a little horny?
But like, granted, if you were in the situation, Seth, would you have turned the key?
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think I would have.
That's kind of my thing. It's like, who the fuck am I to judge other? You know what I'm saying? Like, shit.
I just don't know that I could, like, I don't necessarily disagree with the logic of the woman who's like, those men made their choice,
Like, logically, I don't disagree with that, but it's like, morally, I'm not gonna, like, no.
Yeah, I couldn't be the one to turn that key, and just know that I killed, like, all those people. There must have been, like, fucking 100, 200 motherfuckers on those ferries.
And again, I joke about the one dude that's, like, act all like the civilian that stood up. Really made himself look like a bitch because he's like talking this big game.
Yeah, he talks this big game when he stands up. He's like, all right, none of you gonna make the tough call. All right, pussies, basically, and he grabs it.
Just walk. It just makes yourself look like more of a bitch because it's like grabs it.
Yeah, it ends up pussing out.
Again, when you put yourself in that in that position, like he did, it's like, oh no, you can't do this.
No, it is a tough moral decision. I mean, They conveyed that, I thought, very well. They do a good job of that, but and that's the whole point, right? And then the ace in the hole where he basically like just let Harvey off the leash essentially, and we're getting all these good scenes with
Harvey actually having the two-sided coin now, just going fucking in.
And that's the stuff that I love, setting up his character, right? Where we get that first scene with him, which is such a great introduction to his character, where it's that court case, and he's got he's trying to pin like Sal Maroni and everything, and there's the attempted assassination and shit, and he basically just like knocks the dude out, breaks apart the gun. There he has that great line where he's like if you're gonna fucking try to assassinate me, I recommend you buy American.
Yeah, I love it.
That's such a great scene, and it just like establishes his character, and to see that sort of like the plot line with him go through. He's just a good man. It's like how Batman says at the end, he was the best of us,
Mm-hmm.
To see just a legitimately good man, it's like he says at the end, to be a decent man in an indecent time.
And it does play off the whole like one bad day
sort
of thing. And he mentioned, like, even the Joker has the whole thing, just a little bit of gravity.
Yes.
Yeah.
All you need is a little push. That's Killing Joke. Like, totally beat for beat, rip that straight out of there. Which, of course, these movies all sort of have, like, their basis. You can kind of take, like, little things that they sort of cherry pick from classic Batman stories, of course.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No, they give it their own spin, like, this is not literally the Killing Joke, but it definitely has shades of the Killing Joke, like you just pointed out. The shades of Year One that are in Batman Begins, the shades of Nightfall, of course, that we get in the next movie.
Mm-hmm. The other thing I don't think we've talked about is how, like, Bruce Wayne.
Yes,
like him going hard with the Bruce Wayne persona, and like the scenes where he's Bruce Wayne. Essentially, he's got that mask on, and just sizing up Harvey Dent, like, as Bruce Wayne. Fucking loved it.
It is really hard for superhero movies where characters are juggling personas. Like, take like Spider-Man, for example. It's really hard to make a movie like this and to write a script like this and have it feel like you've given equal time to Bruce Wayne and Batman.
I think these movies always juggled it properly. Like, they did it good.
Yeah, this movie in particular, I think, does a really solid job. And again, they have a little bit of fun with the Bruce Wayne character. Of course, he knows exactly what he's doing. Mm-hmm. He's just when he's like, I was just trying to beat the light when he crashes his Lamborghini.
Well, I even love the nod he does to him.
Right.
I don't know if you noticed that, it's like, what's up, bitch?
he gives that little nod to the dude who was about to sell him out to Coleman Reese. He's like, yeah, I just saved your life, motherfucker. What now, basically? Which is why it actually would have been really interesting if they did go the Riddler route with him. Yeah. Because he is one of the few people, you forget, he's one of the few people at this point that does know his identity.
Yep.
But it is, it's cool what they've done with him as a character in this one, because you get some of that. You get to see him actually be a detective a little bit in this movie, and I think I think this script is super, super strong. I think the narrative isn't quite as strong as Batman Begins, but it's so much fun. It has something to say. The performances are outstanding. And I mean, like, there's not too many issues I have with it. Mm-hmm. This trilogy, until we get to, and we're going to, I don't want to spoil the conversation, but, like, I think the first one that really even has chinks in the armor really is Rises.
Yeah.
And that movie's still great, I think, on its own, but it does have some problems, but we'll get to that next time.
I think coming out of this movie, though, I can definitely say my ranking has changed since the first time I watched the trilogy. Uh-huh. It used to be 2, 1, 3, but it's dead ass in order now.
I've got 2 different lists. If we're talking about which ones, I had the most fun watching this one.
I give it that.
Like this, I think The Dark Knight is that script is just diamonds in terms of how fun it is. The scenes, like, again, like, almost all of these scenes are classic scenes that are just fun to watch on their own. Mm-hmm. You can just cut these scenes out and watch them individually, and they're completely fun and, like,
yeah, it's fun to watch. Yeah,
just fun to watch. I would have loved to see the way they, like, boarded this movie out, where they just did scene by scene, like, storyboardings and stuff. Like, I would have loved to see that, but they, of course, everything here is just so, like, polished and fun. I think the narrative, I think Batman Begins, in a way, is a better story. Mm-hmm. And so if I'm sitting here contemplating which one I think does a better job of doing what it's supposed to be doing, I guess I would give it to Batman Begins. Mm-hmm. But, like, if I'm talking about the actual quality of the movie and, like, the amount of fun that I had watching it and, like, the strength of the script, even though the narrative isn't better, I still think I would have to give it to The Dark Knight.
Again, I respect that.
Yeah. And I think, and by the way, I think what's great about these movies is, I don't know too many people that say The Dark Knight Rises is their favorite, but, like, I would completely accept, I could see how it could be.
I can accept that opinion.
I could see how it could be somebody's favorite of the 3. And of course, again, we're going to talk about that next time we do an episode of Relapse, but it's like these movies are all so good. And like this is one of the best, I think one of the best movie trilogies of all time.
Oh yeah. I wholeheartedly agree with that.
And this one does not have that like middle child syndrome at all. Like, you know, of course, with Heath Ledger passing away and everything, unfortunately, we didn't get to see him in Rises, but like, you don't feel like that story. There's not like some aching hole in your heart.
Mm-hmm.
Like the story of this Joker feels very complete in a way. Like it doesn't feel, I don't know. I don't feel any longing regret or anything like that.
I imagine a what if situation if the Joker was in Dark Knight Rises. God.
I just wonder how the problem with the Joker almost as a character is he has such a strong personality. It's almost impossible not to have him overtake the story.
Oh yeah.
That's sort of the issue that they had with the Arkham games, where the Arkham games are like, oh no, this isn't a Joker story. But it is a Joker story. And they sort of are all Joker stories at the end of the day.
Oh dude, fucking Arkham Knight, it's like
like even when it wasn't supposed to be a Joker story, it was still a Joker story. He is just such a strong personality. I can't really imagine the job of like, hey, you have to include Joker in this movie, but he can't overtake the movie. It still has to be about Bane. How that would have been so tough to write, because to do the Joker character justice, you would have had to let him choose some scenery and shit like that, and it just would have been difficult to do. I do like that the through line of all three of these movies in terms of the villain is Scarecrow.
Yeah.
I love that we get to see Scarecrow we almost get to see the lens of Gotham through Scarecrow. Like, we see him in that position of power where he's like an operating psychiatrist as Crane. We see him in this one in The Dark Knight.
Basically like a drug dealer.
Essentially a drug dealer, yeah. And still just kind of like, almost like a 2-bit thug drug dealer, though. Like, he's not really like...
Yeah.
He's like operating out of the back of a van and shit, you know?
That fucking scene's hilarious to me.
That is a funny scene where all the copycat Batmen show up and stuff, and that's not him.
My diagnosis.
Yeah. Yeah. So good. So good. And then, of course, we see him in the third one where he's almost like this. He's just taking complete...
It's like a fucking judge, jury, executioner shit.
Judge, jury, executioner is this like mad king, basically. Like
it's like, death by exile.
Taking total advantage of the apocalypse and shit. I actually can't wait for the next episode of this Relapse series. I can't wait to watch that.
It's gonna be fun. Hopefully we can actually watch it next week.
Yeah. So anyway, I feel like I've said most of what I want to say about The Dark Knight, though. It's just such a good movie. Again, all these characters, all these actors are so great, and the script is so strong, and it's such a fun watch. And I don't know, it's the kind of thing where I just can't stop raving about it. I really don't have any complaints about this movie.
Yeah.
It's one of those few. It is in rarefied company where it's just like I literally have no issues. It's just one of my favorite movies ever. Like, it's just so fun. Like, it's just so... I can pop this movie on any fucking day of the week. I tell you what, Todd, and watch this movie.
I feel that.
Which, it reminds me, in a way, just, again, these movies where the script is just perfect, just everything gels perfectly. Another series I would like to do is The Matrix.
Ooh, God.
Because this movie, in a way, reminds me of the first Matrix movie. Just like how like easily digestible it all is, even though it really shouldn't be, and like...
Dude, I actually would love to, because you just see us getting just more and more just irritated with the series going.
The Matrix trilogy is kind of the opposite of this trilogy, in that the first one is essentially a perfect movie. The first Matrix movie is like in my top 10 movies of all time.
It's one of my favorite movies like of all time. Like I love Matrix 1, yeah.
And then it just got progressively shittier.
Well,
but
again,
anyway,
I make the joke. There is no fucking 2 or 3.
Yeah, but if we were to do a Relapse series, of course, we would do the whole thing.
Oh, there's a lot of Relapse series I wouldn't mind doing.
Yes.
I wouldn't mind actually doing Harry Potter.
Yeah, but that's another saga.
That's another long one. That's did you say that's another saga?
Yeah, that's like an 8-film thing there, and then you have the conversation where we watch the shitty Fantastic Beasts movies.
No, we don't do that.
Anyway, that's a conversation for another time. The Dark Knight, fantastic fucking movie. This is the kind of movie where you're holding your breath for the last 10 minutes like we were.
All right, we did just silence, sitting there in absolute silence.
Just absolute silence as the movie is ending. This is just this was one of the movies I had a weird thing, a weird like OCD tick where if I really, really enjoyed a movie, I would see it 7 times in the theaters. I don't know why. I don't know where that came from.
That's a little weird.
It's extremely weird. Todd, I'm fucked up. I'm not all there mentally.
I mean,
I know that.
Neither am I, but it's whatever.
And this is just one of my weird quirks. If I loved a movie, I would see it 7 times in theaters. I did that. I think this was actually the first movie that I did that with. I think this is the movie I think this was the genesis of it. And probably what it was I probably saw this 7 times like before it left theaters. And then like finally it's like, oh, well, I guess this is just a thing I do now.
All right then.
I did it with this. I did it with the first Avengers movie. I did it with Django Unchained. It's just a thing that I did.
Oh God, I think back to that first Avengers movie. That shit was like fucking insane.
Yeah, man.
God. All right.
Anyway, before we get wrapped up in any
that's
more
a
tangents,
relapse will do in the future. All of them.
Oh fuck
Every single Marvel.
You talk about a saga. That's what, like 20 plus movies at this point.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking bad. We'd
Nah,
be doing that like all year.
Nah, man. Anyway, we love The Dark Knight. On to the next. On to The Dark Knight Rises. Next time on Relapse, folks. Todd, anything you want to add?
That's about it.
Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll catch you next time with The Dark Knight Rises. Bye.
See ya.